know, so we're just going over some old questions here. One of the old questions we had was bridle choke. So I was going to go over that, and then we're going to look at some guard attacks, unless you guys have some different questions. And then I was going to throw that white belt question in.
Greg Nelson says hi.
What up, Greg? Nice.
Yeah. Let's get going. How many do we have?
5 eyeballs.
That's enough. That's enough. Why do we look shit on? Let's start from close guard.
You guys look great. Okay.
All right. Rob from Coast Guard.
It says great podcast with Rob and Matt.
Awesome. It was. Now that Matt's, it's great that Matt's now that he's an internet celebrity that he takes time to hang with
The common folk.
I think Rob was the celebrity. I was just there. So we're just gonna look at a variation here on the bridle choke, just from somewhere familiar. Not necessarily the top of half is not familiar, but just maybe the positioning is a little unfamiliar. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna set up the collar choke just like I did before. Feeding as deep as I can. A lot of times when we feed, sometimes students grab, they just reach and grab, and I really want to think about snaking around, getting this part of my wrist on Professor George's neck, right in the carotid, right, and sinking that collar choke deep. Now when we come back around, what's going to happen is he's going to block. So traditional over-under chokes we have, right, but from here, he's actually going to block my hand as it comes through. I'm going to grab a hold. I can grab a hold of his wrist or his sleeve, it doesn't matter, and I'm going to pull it across. And what it's going to look like mechanically is a triangle choke. So this is going to be cutting off one carotid, and then I'm going to use shoulder pressure, just like in a triangle, to drive his shoulder or his arm into his neck. And so what I want to think about is not squeezing him tight here like a traditional X choke, right, or a cross choke. But what I'm doing is I'm going to create an angle, and I'm going to drive my shoulder to my wrist. That's the movement I want. Because just like a triangle choke, I'm using my shoulder to drive his shoulder into his opposite carotid to get the choke. So here we go.
Why don't you demonstrate one so you can see?
Yeah. So I'm going to open up, right? I don't want to pull down here and limit my access. I open up and I feed. A lot of times here, right, especially when we do up, down, out, is we get into this situation where we're both fighting right away, and maybe this is my grip, right? And I like that, right? 2-on-1, I control those grips right away. And a lot of times I can't get that deep grip. I don't want to settle for this, regardless of what I'm doing, even if I'm just threatening the choke. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to set up like a fan sweep. So I come up on my elbow. What I need to make sure I'm doing here is having my elbow behind my spine, right? So as I come up, I bring my elbow behind my spine. So if he starts to push into me in this process, right, I have that base point, and I sneak around back, right? A lot of times we talk about in class, and this is how I learned it, is reaching past the tag in the gi, and then I'm going to pull him back down, right? So from here we have our A choke or our B choke over top. But what happens is he starts to defend here, right? He gets this hand in front, and all I'm going to do is I'm going to grab that, and I'm going to pull it across here, right? And now if I just try to squeeze here, it's going to be hard, right? It's going to be an annoying choke, but it's not going to tap him out. It's not going to be that blood choke that we want. So what I need to do is change my angle here just a little bit, so I don't take my hand off of this, right? I can control with a hook grip or the wrist, right? I even have a sneaky little arm bar from here that I'll show you on top. But from here, what I want to do is I want to change my angle. So I turn out just a little bit, and now I'm going to drive my shoulder towards my wrist. Once I have that elbow backstopped on my chest, so it's going to be very hard for, he's already tapped. I'm gonna take him out. Man, wouldn't that be so bad? Talk about, somebody asked us when we did the podcast, the most embarrassing jiu-jitsu moments. That would have been right there.
I was trying to hold out.
Yeah.
Make Professor go to sleep on. But what I'm looking to do here is just curl that in, so I'll go a little bit faster. So I open, right? If I can't get it right away, I'll sit up and feed. Inevitably, he's going to push back into me, which is exactly what I want. That arm comes across, so I pull across, I turn my angle, and then I'm going to swim over top, and I'm just going to crunch my shoulder to my wrist. Very effective there, right? So let's change that angle a little bit.
Bailey says Dave Tofty almost put him to sleep.
With that same choke.
Yeah.
So often happen. How do we look, Shayhan?
Great.
So we can start to set this up and come through with a knee on belly, right? That's what Bailey's talking about. Professor Tofty, Professor Dave does this really well. Right? He sets it up, uses it to control you, and then chokes you, right? It's very impressive. But we're gonna look at a Brado option here. So a lot of times here, when he starts to feed underneath, he starts to go for that, right? So he's coming up for that underhook. I'm gonna swim underneath, right? And initially to set this up, I like to frame him back down, right? To keep him at least on his shoulder so he's not coming up or at least underneath me, right? So he's not coming up to try to take my back or he's not getting underneath me to sweep, right? I think Professor George posted his series from the pummel where he tries to take the back, but then if he can't get that and we're in this position, I'm doing a heavy whizzer, he's gonna try to get underneath me. So I'm using that here, right, to control him down. And then I start to come across with a crossface so I can start to feed that grip, right? I don't really like where his hand is right here, but it's okay for now, right? Because now I can start to use that to slice out to come around to pass. I'm feeding underneath. I'm gonna pull that across and I'm gonna use that to get my shoulder. All right? Whew. That's a good one, right?
Joey Mack has a question. You want to go to that?
Yeah.
He said to finish the how to finish the knee bar from top half. Yeah, top half guard.
You wanna do that?
It's just from that position?
From the top half guard, yeah.
The basic one I presume you're talking about?
Yeah.
Joey Mack knows how to do this. Who's he kidding? So for me, if I can get past the knee, I'm always looking for the pass. I generally go for the knee more from the knee shield, right? When I'm here, he's framing off very well, so it's looking like I'm not gonna have a lot of success dropping the pressure, all this kind of stuff. So from here, basically, I like to grab the cross collar right here, and I'm just gonna slide my knee up to here. And here, we're usually in this position already, in some manner. So like, I have the leg, so I'm gonna go for that cross grip, and I just pull him right to me right here, right? And then I'm just gonna come around and slide all the way to sit. I generally don't do the knee bar. I will continue, like here, when bar, so it usually sets up the triangle. You know, so from here, I grab the far leg, pull it in, and continue all the way around to the double trouble, right? But if we're looking at just the knee bar, again too, if it's straight up half guard, I'm most likely looking for the pass, because if I can get past the knee and go to chest, I'm looking to pass. But if I'm here with the knee shield, I'm going to try my various knee shield options to try and defeat it. If it doesn't look like it's going to happen, I will make sure I not give it away too deep, but I'm going to get the control of the leg. I like to get the cross collar grip because I don't want him pushing me away and wiggling away. So I'm going to get here, pull him in tight, and then turn and sit. Right? I trap. I can grab here too. I want to immediately go to the knee, to the heel. To the heel to try and get the leg as straight as possible before I go for the finish, because I don't want it hanging out down here while I adjust, because he just wraps the triangle. Right? So as I come around, I go right to the heel and bring it up. Just like when we're doing an arm bar, we want to control the wrist, get it up high, right? And then from here, I like to cross outside leg behind the inside leg. Then I finish, boom, and I fall to the leg side. Pretty standard. Yeah. Is that what Joey's talking about?
I think that was what we was talking about.
Yeah, nice. That's a good option. That's always a good option, for sure.
I like doing that.
If heel hook is available, there's another good option from that knee shield too. You want to go over? So yeah, go this way. This is one of my favorites for no gi. If heel hook is an option, it's not always it's not an option in the gi, but with no gi, you know, I like when we're here, same thing. I'll grab here and I'll go to sit, but instead of coming around, now from here I put my foot right up against the hip, drop here, and then
You might
just
have
lock
to.
right into my position. Let's change the angle. Just this way. Again, if I'm going chest to chest, I'm trying to pass. I'm gonna come up. I'll step up, holding the calf nice and tight, and then I'll just fall back and throw my heel right in the hip and squeeze tight. And then here's my, you'll look right here. My foot is hooked really deep underneath them, so it's actually a very tight grip.
Right. He says good stuff.
It is. Nice, thank you, Joey. When are you gonna get your black belt already? Yeah. What else? Any other questions? Good.
Not on here.
Yeah, one I like from there. This has been done to me a bunch, so hopefully I do it justice. This is another Professor Dave special here. But a lot of times, we'll do the initial setup. So a lot of times here, like I can be knee slicing, right? And guys start to come around, or they start to get like a deep pummel on me, right? I can do the same thing. But when I'm coming through here, I'm starting to slice, right? This one's passed, but I feel like he's starting to pummel here, right? I can start to sit, oh yeah, right? And so I can just sit back to that same setup. So what I would discourage here is just falling. A lot of times in tournaments, if I just fall and let him come up on top, he's getting points. So rotate for me a little bit. Right? So trying to stay on top here, right? So using my legs to position in, I can sit on top of him. A lot of times, yeah, I can isolate this leg, right? But he'll do the proper defense. So I'm pulling that up high here, and I'm controlling. Turn a little bit more. And I'm controlling the toes, and I'm using the elbow on the inside here to control. So now I can control this one, all right? And for you Danaher, I don't know, what do we call Danaher super fans?
I don't know.
Ask Bailey. For you Danaher death squatters out there, right? Double trouble right here, right? So I can control this one, as now I fall to this side, right? So now I can isolate this one, or I can start to attack the foot lock, or I can even start to attack the foot lock here, right? Just another option, getting into that same position. And yeah, you know, when you guys roll no-gi, especially in submission only, I love that, that smorgasbord where you can start to attack. Because again, that goes back into that double trouble, right? Where you can attack both legs. And inevitably, you chase one attack and it opens up that heel hook or a knee bar. When we play knee bars a lot of times, Professor will set up a knee bar on me here. Any way you want. Which way? Doesn't matter. So a lot of times here, right, when we play knee bar, right, he's not going to be able to knee bar me if my leg is bent, right? So I bend my leg. So he knows, right, it's this, we talked about it in class a while ago, is once you get somebody in a triangle, it's a choose your own adventure story, what I call it, or a choose your own submission story. So within a triangle, I have an arm bar and a triangle, and I'm just going to go back and forth between until you tap to one of them, right? So my knee's bent, he can't knee bar me, Professor knows that, so he starts to attack the foot lock, right? And I'm like, oh no, right? So I reinforce and I kick my leg straight to avoid the foot lock. Well, guess what I just gave him? I just gave him the knee bar, right? So not exactly double trouble, but certainly choose your own submission story there.
Joey Mack said, forgot about the leg lock smorgasbord.
Well, they call it something. The death squad uses a different name.
Show us an attack series off that.
Man.
Show us your attack series.
So I'm here.
You want to
Set up. Right?
How's that look, Shayhan?
Escape the triangle. Oh.
Can you scoot this one?
Yeah, you might
So
want
they
to.
can see your hands.
So when I'm here, I like to grab, start from the beginning. You're gonna fall that way again. So I come up, and I drop, right? And I start attacking the knee bar. He's gonna triangle right away, right? So what I like to do here is grab the foot, pull it in tight, put my other knee behind so he can't straighten anything out, right? I'm in tight with the elbow. I'm gonna sit and slide my knee right in there, right? Now from here, this is all pretty tight, even if he's kicking away or trying to do anything. Hook, elbow, and I have to make sure that this knee comes behind this leg. From here now, I'm just gonna shoot through, and I lock it. I'm pinching. Shorter leg people can go on their heel. I have long legs, so I'll hook under my Achilles to put like a double hook on his butt. This knee is through, and this is holding tight. So now, he's basically screwed. He's not gonna go anywhere. I can hold this forever, all right? The first thing I try and do is in this position, and all of this kind of depends on the position he wound up in at the end, because everybody's turned and twisted a little different. But right away, I'm gonna try and just do straight ankle right from here. Straight ankle's in there. I'll use his own calf as the vulcan, right? If it doesn't work, I'll swim inside, push this out of the way, start attacking the inside heel hook. He's not quite in the position for it because his knee is turned out a little bit, right? I can come over and I can attack the outside. If he was extending a little bit longer and trying to defend, I have a knee bar here too. He's not quite in it. And of course, I have the foot. So we used to, back in pre-Denher Death Squad days, we used to call it the leg lock smorgasbord. But now I don't know what they call it. But yeah, it's a good option. It's super tight. You can hold the person there for a long time. It's hard to get out.
Let's center this way. There we go.
Man, what was the so we got a good question that I'm going to throw at Professor here. So one of the students asked white belt map. So I don't know if you guys know or you're kind of familiar with the gym and where I'm pointing, but we have a list of techniques that fall under each stripe, and it's up on the wall. So you guys can go and see that, knowing what's in the curriculum, what we're teaching, what we're going through. So this is what the student is referring to. So he asked about the white belt map or the technique list and what they should be focusing on to get their blue belt. So the question is, what techniques as a white belt should I be focusing on to get my blue belts? How many techniques? What order? And he's just kind of saying there's an order, but what's essential? What's essential for each stripe? I think, just to maybe dress it up a little bit and make it a little bit simpler is, what should a white belt be focusing on maybe at each stripe to get to the next stripe or to the eventual blue belt?
Well, it sounds like he answered his own question in there. If you have, like, our curriculum is designed around a system of techniques that we've, over the years of experience that I've brought from my instructor, Easton's in Colorado, that we felt was the most important for fundamental jiu-jitsu. Anybody who comes into this school can look right on the wall over there on the poster, and it has a complete breakdown of every technique for first stripe, second stripe, third stripe, and fourth stripe. So to answer your question, what is necessary for each stripe, there it is right there. Like, all of those techniques are what you want to be focusing on first. The philosophy behind the curriculum that we made was that it's a rock solid fundamental culmination of the most basic jiu-jitsu. So self-defense techniques and the basic positions and basic attacks. So really the kind of thing that everybody should know. Today's jiu-jitsu is pretty expansive. So you have a lot of people doing a lot of things. There's a lot of routes you can go, tournament style jiu-jitsu, self-defense style jiu-jitsu, MMA, gi, no gi, there's all this crazy things that people are doing. But we've determined that our fundamental curriculum is a rock solid base that once you do well in it, once you get to your blue belt and feel good with all those techniques, that should be a nice platform for you to be able to go off and do any style of jiu-jitsu you like successfully. whether it's tournament style, going straight to no-gi, MMA, self-defense, focus, whatever. So we believe that that foundational curriculum is rock solid. So like, I believe that that's the first thing you should be working on when you come here. Every school has their own different version, or not every school, but I would imagine most good quality schools that are well organized have their own version of what they think their best, their fundamental curriculum should be. This is ours, and we're very confident that if you master these fundamental moves, that you'll be able to go on and expand into various forms and styles of jiu-jitsu that you want to, and be successful doing it, right? Yeah, that's it.
You know, to expound on that, I think I mean, how long has the school been open?
Coming on 12 years now.
What was the first class?
August,
posted that
August 2008, yeah.
So August 2008, right? So coming up on 12 years here pretty quick. I think, you know, I've been here just about 11 years. It's a solid fundamentals program, right? So it's, yes, you know, focusing on techniques and stuff like that, but if, in my opinion, to boil it down, what it comes down to is it comes down to time, right? So how long you've been here, right? So it's not only how long have you been here, but how many classes you've been to. And so what I like to tell students is make a commitment to jiu-jitsu, right? So that first few months, it's going to be uncomfortable. It's going to be hard because it's something new. It's like coming in, learning a new language. And you got to be willing to come in and just kind of get roughed up a little bit and make a lot of mistakes. Absolutely. But just making that commitment and being consistent, right? If you're consistent 2 to 3 times a week or more, if that's available to you, and if that's awesome. But most people realistically, and this is another kind of side question, is, you know, what kind of commitment should I make to jiu-jitsu initially? And I've heard Professor answer this one before, but 2 to 3 times a week is good, at least in the beginning, right? Because you don't want to have it too much where it overwhelms you in the beginning, right? Because it's a new habit, it's a new lifestyle that you're building. So you don't want to have it where you burn yourself out, but at the same time, we need those 2 to 3 times a week where we're improving, and that's the big thing. So showing up, being consistent 2 to 3 times a week for a year to 2 years, you're going to be a blue belt, right? Because we've done it. I don't know how many blue belts Professor George has promoted, but we've shown it over 12 years that we have a very, very good white to blue belt program and other programs. But the question was about blue belt. So if you just come in and show up and give it your best effort and try to improve every day, that's where you'll be, man. That's all that really needs to happen.
It's funny, a lot of people ask, you know, how can I get to my blue belt faster? How can I get better faster in general, especially at the beginner level? And my answer is always the same. It's just come and do what we're saying. You know, like, I'm not ever going to discourage people to not, you know, pursue avenues outside the gym, but like, we're doing everything that you need to progress, you know, and if it's just like, it's all right here, you know, like, you just have to do what we say to do. The curriculum is designed in a systematic way to give you a well-versed, a broad spectrum and well-versed in each position. A lot of times people, when they're trying to pursue their own training, they could pigeonhole themselves into like 1 or 2 different positions. They really like the guard, they really like the top position, and then they wind up not getting a full spectrum. A drill that I like to, or like a little habit that I like to tell people to do to kind of determine this is, you know, just take out a piece of paper one day and write right down the middle, write all the positions, you know, from back all the way down to guard. On one side is the positive positions, and on the other side is your negative escape positions. And write down from every position, what attacks do you like to do, what escapes do you like to do, what attacks. And you'll find that some people will have like 15 things in one, but nothing in the other, on the other side of it. So they have all offense but no defense. They'll have, you know, a lot of defense of one position, but no attacks, and they're very unbalanced, right? So the goal for our fundamentals curriculum is to give everybody a balanced view and ability in jiu-jitsu, so they can go on to the intermediate level program and start their live training with an actual game plan where they have something to practice or something to try and do from every situation they're going to find themselves in. It's going to be a fundamental thing, knowledge they have, so they're not going to, it's not guaranteeing they're going to be super successful, but they have a broader spectrum and a better context of what the fight is going to be, and they'll have things to try at least, rather than The worst thing you ever want to have is somebody going into a position with people better than them, or even your peers, but like you get thrown into a situation where you have no idea what to do, so you're just flailing, right? And you're just making stuff up, and that's where people get hurt, and and all kinds of bad habits are formed, and you just don't want to be in that kind of situation. So it's very important that you go through the fundamentals curriculum and give yourself a nice full spectrum of the entire course, so when you do train live, you actually have things to actually try, not just your YouTube moves.
All right, we have a couple of questions here.
What's the blue belt recipe? Is 2 escapes and 1 attack from every position, right?
I like to have at least 2 escapes and at least 2 to 4 attacks from every basic position. Yeah, like if you can do that, if you have 2 basic fundamentally sound escapes from every position, back to the guard, and 2 to 4 attacks from every position, man, you're already well on your way to being a good jiu-jitsu person. Good jiu-jitsu player, man. I mean, I wouldn't, that's nothing to be disrespected at. Of course not, man. That's awesome. So yeah, you go into any live training scenario with that, and you got stuff to try.
Sweet. Joey Max says, favorite butterfly sweeps.
Favorite butterfly sweeps? Man, I'm still hardcore with the basic butterfly sweep, man. I love it.
You want to try something?
You want to do it? Give me.
There you go.
All right. I'm a big fan of the number 1 first, the basic butterfly sweep, just straight up, boom, right over. But I think the trick to it is having a good setup, right? And I'll show the sweep, but the way I like to set it up, the little trick I like to set up is what makes it easy, and I think that's going to be the cool thing. So the basic butterfly sweep here, and of course, hold on, before we even do this, whenever we're doing butterfly sweep, we always do the drill where we have people start right here in their 90-degree diamond, and then they just fall to the side, get up on their toe and shoulder, and kick. Boom. Get up on their toe and shoulder, because that's going to be my sweeping position. So here.
You want to do
Yeah,
it?
you face one.
Yeah, this way.
No. I would face it.
Boom.
Right.
Kick. All right.
Man, I think you already cut me once with one of those tournaments.
Come on.
Bleeding all over. No, when you were showing that knee bar, I was like, Jesus. Almost ended up like John Winkle.
My toenails are
Winkle
well
John.
trimmed. All right, so look. When I'm looking for my butterfly sweep, right off the bat, I don't want to be in a square center line with him. If his center line is right here, I want to be off to the side, my butt cheek on the center line or past, and my hand on the side, right? I'm going to come in, underhook. I like to grab the belt or the pants, and I'm going to control the inside arm, right? The big mistake that a lot of people make is they fall back to try and take them over and lift them with their leg. That's not what I'm going to do. I'm going to drive with good head position. As people are good at with bad head position too. I'm going to drive my shoulders straight down, get up onto my toe, and kick them over. Same position that we did with the solo drill. So if you guys can see the seam, there's a seam on the mat right here. I don't know if you can see it.
Are we in center?
I'm going to come to the side of the center line, right? Come up, grab my position, overhook the arm, and instead of falling back, I'm going to drive to my shoulder, drive up on my toe, kick them over, come up on top. Now, in reality, getting that angle on a static person is easy, but on a dynamic fighting person, getting that angle can be a little different. So getting the angle starts with setting up the position before we start. So the first drill is going to be reestablishing my sit-up position from when he's got me flying down. So he pushes me here, wow, right? So here is the part that a lot of people have a hard time with, right? How do I get up from here, especially if he's dropping, right? So what I'm going to do is a lot of people are trying to push and get up and push away, but that's not what I'm going to do. I'm actually going to cup behind his forearm, or cup his armpits, and hook his thighs with my legs. And I'm actually going to pull him into me more, right? I'm going to pull him into me more, elevate, then sit up, right? So he pushes me, boom, right? Up, and rock up. So my head is below his head, right? Boom, I get my underhook. But that doesn't solve the center line problem, right? So how we solve the center line problem is this. The best way I like to describe it is if anybody recognizes the old computer symbol, the Atari computer game symbol, it's the line, one down the middle, and then two lines to the side, right? So when we start, we're that line in the middle, but when we rock back, we're gonna take that line on the side. So I'm here. So here we're in a straight line. We're the center line. So I'm rocking up, right? And I can even get him high, try to get his hands on the mat. That's even better, right? My head is below his head already. I already have my underhook. So now, instead of going straight back to center line, now I'm gonna follow the curve. Boom. And I'm already on my side. I take him over. One more time. Sometimes I need more than one rock. Boom. And then I follow the turn. That gives me the angle on the center line now. I can scoop under, scoop over, regardless. I already have a good head position because I came up well. Then I drive to my shoulder, scoop them over, and take my position. So, setting up the good angle from the sit-up is the trick, I think, to making a good butterfly, because it gets you really one step ahead and you're already going over. Once they hit their bait, once you put them down, they're already set to go over rather than fight. You do?
What's the, when I post, let's do arm post and then we'll do leg post. So what's the move when I arm post? So common defense here, right? He goes to sweep, I post with my arm, my right arm, right? So what are you doing now?
A lot of times here, I'll just underchop it.
Oh, yes.
Right?
And finish, sweep him up, right? So a lot of times, when you go for that basic sweep, people post, right? With that hand. Right, you gonna do it again.
So the situation here, if I'm posting, that means I either miss the arm or I'm holding a bad grip. A lot of people overhook, and then but that gives him that post, right? So I want to have more like a pummel where I'm holding the tricep and I'm pinching, right? Because if I'm pinching, he can't post, right? And if he does post, it's really long, right? And a lot of times I'm just going to get over that, but I'm going to give you a little bit of one, so really post.
Yeah.
Boom. There, right? Look. Right?
Another common defense, right? And this one, you see it in more probably dynamic. A lot of wrestlers do this, but once you get more familiar with defenses, right, the way to stop that is to step out, right? So now I'm not posting, but I'm stepping out here, so that's what we're gonna go over.
Boom, so you go step, right? And then. There's a couple of ways. There's a couple of ways to go with that one. I'm not even sure which one we're doing pretty much.
That's to take out the trash.
Oh yeah, okay.
So you can go take out the trash and you can do X card with it.
So version of what we just did then.
Yep.
Yeah, so I'm here, go. I'll get my sweep, right? So here, he's blocking, so I go from the arm straight to the leg, right? And I'll pull that in tight. And then I use my inside leg, the one that's right here. I'm gonna pull myself under and then kick off with that. So without a partner, I'm starting off with my sweep, but he steps up his leg. So I'm here. So I let go of the arm and I go to the leg and I use this foot to pull myself this way and throw him that way.
Want to do that a different angle too?
What's that?
You want to do that at a different angle where the legs can be seen?
Wait, what?
Where the legs, what he's doing with his legs can be seen?
Maybe head this way.
Yeah.
So I kick him off, I came up, I came to my sweep, and I go to step, boom. Now from here, my hand goes from my hand right to here, right? This leg, notice how I still have the butterfly hook, my knee is still sticking out, I have the body. I'm here, I use this foot to pull myself this way, and then I take him that way. Nice finish off. Coming it's a really good counter because the person is overcommitting to that side because they think they're going the other way. You have to undercut them though. A common mistake is this. Let's run again. Oh, yeah. So over here he steps up. And actually, he did a real one that time, and you can see the position is a little different. He's really on top of me. The leg is right here. So this is a little bit more realistic of what it's going to be like. So I go here. I'm kind of knocked flat. The leg is right here. A lot of people with me facing this way will just try and take him this way now. You have to make sure to pull yourself under and face that way. So then you can just come off and drive up and follow the sweep up. Cool?
Yep.
Awesome.
Are you done with that?
I think so, yeah. That was good.
So Carlos Diaz Perez asked,
Carlos!
what's the best counter when your De La Riva gets passed?
So what happens when you get your guard pass? Is what I'm saying.
Yeah, De La
This is
Riva.
probably the same reaction to everything, every guard pass. Hope you have a good side control escape. That's the answer. No, what was it? Say it again.
So what specifically is happening, Carlos? If you could just put in the comments. We'll cover one more technique here, and then just put in the comments what specifically is happening. Is it your far leg? Is it your De La Riva hook? Like what exactly is happening, and then we can address that.
Yeah, if you're asking about like a potential breakdown in your guard, it would be hard to, without seeing it, like give you a real answer.
I think didn't Bailey go through those, like when
those
one
resets.
gets passed? Yeah.
Yeah, the Bailey live stream. It's on the YouTube channel under podcasts playlist. If you go there, he has a great video of how to transition between guards and when to switch between guards and to go from guard playing to guard retention. It's really awesome.
But yeah, Carlos, let us know, and we'll answer. Let's go over another one. So, sidecar? Yeah.
Sidecar?
Sidecar. You want to just go through the suits?
I was just saying two.
That's fine.
All right, so the question was a little bit about like my side guard, and which is my favorite guard. I've been doing it for a long time, thanks to Gracie Baja, black belt that I started training with for a long time in Denver. Mario Coher, his nickname is Busy. He has a great side guard. This is back in the early 2000s. Let's see, my primary side guard is, well, the side guard is getting the arm drug across. So like my number one priority every time I get the closed guard is try and get the elbow across the center line and close the gap as much as I can. My main combination is like a modified pendulum sweep, which is kind of like half pendulum, half flower. The response would be the arm bar. The response to that would be attacking the arm bar. So we're gonna start off here. So anytime I get into the closed guard, I'm looking at getting his weight on me and getting his elbow just relax across the center line, and me getting a lat grip and turning on my side, controlling the lat grip right here. This is what I'm looking for. I have a whole bunch of ways I like to do it. We'll just start off with a real basic one because a lot of people have the long arm, short arm grip here. So I'm going to take a cross grip on his long arm, swim underneath, get a figure four grip like I'm Kimuring, and I'm going to use my legs to pop him away while I pop the grip off at the same time. Pop, and then I pull him in, right? And I drive his arm down to his knee and pull him onto my body right away. I'm pulling him this way as much as I can. Now this hand is immediately going to go right to the lat as I open my legs and kick out to the side. I like to grab the material, this armpit material right here. Be careful you don't grab the guy's armpit hair, it's brutal. Boom, right here. In a perfect world, I would love to get this collar grip, but I'm not going to fumble around for it because I don't want to lose the position. This is just as good. Boom. Now my elbow is torquing down to his back, not just like this because I don't want him to duck his head under and pull his arm back out. So he goes back in. So I'm torquing my elbow as if I'm trying to get his chest to point that way. That's what I'm trying to do, right? Now, people are going to want to grab the arm. So as soon as I get this position and as soon as I lock the grip, I'm going to come up onto my elbow. Right? Vogue position. I'm voguing. Right here, boom. And this is it. Now, he knows that his back is available, right? So with nothing else happening, I'm going to continue to come up on my elbow and start taking his back. So the most common reaction here is he's going to push me back to flat, right? And when he goes back to flat, I'm just going to scoop this, do a modified, well, like a flower sweep or a pendulum, whichever one you want to call it, but I'm going to take him over and I come up. When I come up, I stay heavy on the arm to make sure that he still keeps it across the center line. Because now I'm going to go right here, control his wrist, turn him for the back take. So my sequence off the cross body sweep is always the back take. So if I get the elbow stuck across my body in the guard, I assume that's pretty much a gimme for the back take already. So it's all one big motion. Okay? Another way to do it, especially if he's not in the long arm, short arm grip, but he's doing something else, I like to stick my 4 fingers right in the elbow pit and grab a hook grip right there. My other hand is going to go right to his tricep. Right? This grip too is very strong. I'll even open my legs here, and even if he's pulling away, I'll pull to the side and I'll just pull him in and I'll hold this here, sit up and grab that armpit. Then I'm up on my elbow. This one makes it even easier to cross body sweep because now that I'm already up, he wants to push me down. And when he pushes me down, I just pull with that armpit, keep that trapped. Right? Turn him to the bottom. Boom. Back. There's a lot of stuff going on there. I just want to focus on the side guard part for now. The most common reaction is when I get, regardless of how I do it, bang, right? Now, instead of driving into me, he tries to pull up and back. Yeah, like this, right? So here, I'm not going to try and hold him because he's a super strong guy, will pull up and pull away, right? So what I'm going to do is kind of let him work his way out. When I start feeling him resist in that direction, right? I bring my leg up high to his shoulder. So as he postures up, I'm going to put my leg over his shoulder and I get the high guard over the shoulder setup, which, you know, if you do my classes, you know this is the armbar setup position. Right here, 1, 2. I already have this arm straight. I'm going to come over to the neck and control this position right here. Boom. Because now I have distance control. He can't pull away. If he tries to push into me, I can stack him off. Right? I have perfect distance control this way, and I have angle with my knees this way, left and right. So now I'm going to stay on the wrist. I'm going to stay on the neck. I just walk. My legs over. I do the Heiser style, cross feet, wide knees, curling my heels to my butt. And then, boom, there's the armbar for sure. I like this version because it's very hard for him to stack me. If he tries to stack me, I can just open my knees and put him back down. One more time. Again, another way. Boom, here, tricep. Pull across, come up. He starts pulling away. I let him walk right in. I let him slide right into it. I resist him a little bit to make him think he's fighting, but I just let him slide right in there. Lock up the shoulders. And this part here is squeezing. If I'm slack, he flexes his lats and pushes through. Yeah, I don't want to have that. So here, squeezing, lock it up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Wide, squeeze on the wrist. So that's my side guard, cross body sweep into the armbar combo. It's probably the most common, highest percentage reactions that they get. Good? And that's great for gi or no gi, by the way. That's probably one of my highest percentage armbars for no gi in the guard, for sure. Any other questions?
Not on here.
All right, Towns?
We got about 10 minutes.
All right.
So we got a request for high guard. This plays into this really well. So kind of work from both positions. So I play this guard a lot as well. This is probably as a white belt. What I started to do is I would get into position and I do 2-on-1, which is a very good grip. You know, both gi, no gi, and I start pulling that arm across, right? So we're just gonna go into some high guard stuff here.
So we could do that same setup, right? So if he's long arm, short arm, right? I do that same setup here where I come across, right? And I reach through and I break, right? A lot of times as I'm swimming over, he knows, right? Here, right? So I turn to block his hand from coming back and I come behind the elbow and now I'm just gonna hip out. So a lot of times in Jiu-Jitsu, we always think, at least new people think that the answer is that I need to move him and muscle him all over the place. Jiu-Jitsu is about efficiency, right? It's not lazy necessarily, it's just about being efficient, especially on the bottom, because I'm gonna be the nail for as long as it takes, but then I wanna have all that energy once I get on top to be able to submit my opponent. So from here, I'm not gonna move him, I'm just gonna hold him in place, which is much easier than trying to move him, and I'm gonna move myself, which is also much easier. So I move myself off to the side and I get that same grip. But a lot of times here, right, when we're doing that, I'm having a hard time getting that grip, even with, and I use this as well, Professor's elbow pit grip, right? I'm pulling across, he's giving me a hard time. So my general rule is that for arm bars, right, or this high guard, shoulder guard position, if your arm is at my center line, right, and that's about all I can get, I'm going to go for the shoulder guard. If I can get your elbow past my center line, even if it's 5%, I'm gonna take the back, right? Because I'm a hip out away from doing what Professor just showed. So from here, giving me a hard time, I like to reach across and stretch out and walk my way up, right? And so I went over this, I don't know, probably a month ago in class. And so there's two examples. The first example is I just throw it, right? But this is also, it goes into strategy a little bit and how I play the game. So I always think of this story when I think of this guard, because this is how I learned it from Professor. But years ago, probably 10 years ago, maybe 9 years ago, we had a guy he was a D1 wrestler, came into our school. And two stories here. The first one, his form of double leg defense was to throw an uppercut. So Professor, you remember this guy? Professor shot in on him and he uppercut him. Boom! Almost knocked you out. I was like, dang, that's a good double leg defense. I just learned this.
I still got the
I just learned the sprawl, but yeah, that's also effective. And then another one is when we were training one time, the guy kept exploding, right? You just couldn't hold him down. He was just, every time he could move, he was exploding out of everywhere. It's very explosive. And I watched Professor do this to him, and I asked him about it later. And I said, why didn't you just throw your legs over? And he said, every time I moved more than a centimeter, the guy would just explode. So it was just a game of centimeters for me, a game of inches. So it was a slow process. So you gotta gauge who you're going against. If it's somebody who's not gonna explode at every opportunity, right, I'll throw that up. But if it's somebody where I feel like he's just, a bottle of dynamite or, whatever, and just ready to explode at any time, and I'm gonna take it slow and I'm gonna use that ladder walk like Professor was showing, and I'm gonna come up high here, right? And so then from here, I'm controlling that posture. I can use that to frame off, but it's just slow working my legs, right? This is for demonstration purposes, but that's what I'm doing, right? And kind of depending upon, so Professor showed this one, very good. I personally like where I'm joysticking his head. So I take my calf and I put it over top of his head and I try to put his forehead down on the floor, and then I pull and I get my arm bar there. A lot of times from here, right, he'll pull that arm out, right? And a question we got on our last live feed was, when do I know to let submission go? As soon as his elbow passes my hip line, it's gone, right? I have nothing to break his arm on now. So I let that go and I switch to the triangle. Now from here, I can work through our series, right? So we have just that basic triangle creating the angle, right? We have the workman special, right? Maybe he goes for omoplata. So I'm coming underneath here, right? Giving him that good old cauliflower ear. Coming to block his head from turning out. I reach across. I shoot across for my reverse triangle here. Right, now how I finish a reverse triangle, I think of this like a heel hook, where I want to, again, pinch, and I showed this before, I'm pinching his shoulder into the side of his neck. So I come and I hook, like this is his heel here, and I come over top, and then I squeeze the two together to get my submission. So a lot of times from here, right, and this is the question, is I have guys hang out. Maybe they go for the omoplata defense, and a lot of times when you get the omoplata defense, commonly called the wrestler defense, is they know the triangle, they know the arm bar, so they wrap the leg. Maybe they haven't seen the omoplata, or in my case, you know, I'll roll the dice. Like you probably know what an arm bar and a triangle is, but I bet you don't know what an omoplata is, and I'm betting that my escapes are better than your actual submission. So turn for me a little bit this way. So a lot of times here, right, we get stuck, especially against big, strong guys. So what I like to do is I like to take advantage of this space. So I'm going to take my knuckles, and I have to know where his carotids are. This is why I like demonstrating chokes on Coach Rob, because he has those two beautiful neck tattoos, right? And I'm punching him right in the neck tattoo. So here I'm opening up, and I fold right into that space. I pinch my knees together, and I pull his head back towards me, and that's when I get that punch choke. So that's a little series, just another setup from there, right, to get back into either one of those positions. So long arm, short arm, right? Traditionally, right, we have where people like to pass to their left side because that's how they learn, right? But a lot of times we get people who don't do that. Like very commonly, this is not how I set up to pass the guard. I actually switch my arms because of how I like to position off of it. So I've switched where I do this side, but that's okay. So we can still attack this same arm. We're just gonna treat it a little bit differently. So I'm gonna get that same hook grip. Instead of popping the grip, what I'm gonna do, you can see with Professor's left hand, is I'm gonna take the heel of my palm and I'm gonna come underneath the knuckles and I'm gonna push him back towards him. Very similar to our thumb defense we use when people grab our hair in a self-defense class, right? So for me, I'm doing the same thing, cross grip. I'm pushing that grip back as I come back behind, and now I'm up, coming through, and I can either hit my shoulder guard or I can start to hit that side guard. And a detail that I love the professor showed is that grip. A lot of times people are just kind of hanging out here, right, like a sloth. We have to be active when we're attacking. The guard is a very aggressive attacking position. So I'm bringing my elbow down and I'm trying to expose his chest to the wall. That's where I start to get that, and that opens him up where I can start to drag that arm across our arm bars, or come underneath, start to get underneath him to sweep.
Right. We got 5 minutes. There's one more question from Carlos. He says, one question I do have that I have not learned yet is taking the back from De La Riva. Can you demonstrate a couple of options from De La Riva and reverse De La Riva?
You want to just do the basic one?
Sure. I'm not a super detailed De La Riva guy. My De La Riva goes pretty just basic because I do a different type of open guard when the person's standing. So I'll use De La Riva just for maintaining the position and do the basic sequence. But my favorite way to take the back here is, so I'm here, I'm sitting up, right? I have the collar, I have the hook in here. Normally I'm not a shallow hook guy, right? If I'm gonna go here, I like to go deep hook, so I push that leg back, come up on my shoulder, and push it through, right? See how much more that hasn't turned, right? I could do it with the opposite grip too, right? A lot of times I'm with the opposite grip, so collar or opposite grip, it doesn't matter. I'll shoot the X so he can't backstep, into the X position here, so he doesn't backstep into the knee bar. And I have him tight. I'm actually showing this very badly because I would have the pants grip here in reality, right? So when I go for the back, I'm gonna take this leg out and swing it over his arm and his leg, and I hook, right? I don't let go of the arm, I let go of the leg, center myself up, grab the belt. Then I'll let go of the hand, kick him out, and land right into the back position. I think when people try and take the back, the biggest issue that they have is they don't get enough initial setup rotation around towards the back. They're too squared up in the front and they can't reach. Or at their best attempt, they get more kind of sideways and the guy spins out. So again, maybe another angle here a little bit. So if I'm here, right, I'll be here and here. If this is the case, when I do take the back, I'm usually working off a cross grip here, right? And so because I have the pants, you can have a pistol grip or wrap the side. I like that. I'm going to lift up, kick him my way, and get my my X position. If I have a lot of times from here, I like to go to the collar and just pull for the tomoe-nage and do the back roll, right? But I'm here, right? This comes out and circles big around here, right? If I need to, I'll turn. You notice how he was turning because of the torque on his hip. This is a little bit different when you have the shallow hook. I'll let go, kick him out, and I have the collar ready. Oh yeah, here we go.
Nobody important.
You know, if you're in a situation where you have more of a shallow hook, right? It's much more difficult to get the turn, so my rotation to his back is a lot more like an inversion. And to be honest with you, I don't do that. Right, I'm here, I come in deep, come in here, right? And it gets him turned really well. Matt's being nice, he's turning for me, nice and easy.
There's a lot of pressure on the
But it's a lot of pressure on the knee and the hip, for sure. So they're gonna turn even if they don't want to. You know, a lot of times I'll do it from the same side grip as well. And that's when it's really, really funky, because you're turning them this way and you still have that far sleeve, so they're getting all torqued up. I hope that helps a little bit.
So what I would recommend, Carlos, is I would start with that. You know, probably what you're thinking is something a little more sexier, like a berimbolo. But what makes those guys good? And you know, there's a lot of people out there on YouTube. You know, Keenan Cornelius is one of them, who says like berimbolo doesn't work, right? And he almost had to eat his words a little bit. Alberto Jimenez almost berimboloed him in the last. Who's number one? I think that was the match, the platform anyway. But what makes those guys good, and it takes a long time to get good at berimbolo, but the evolution of the berimbolo was guys like the Mendez brothers. They were taking the back just like that, right? And so what happens inevitably is guys are like, nah, I don't want none of that. So as soon as I feel him starting to feed, right, I sit down to my hip. So Professor goes again here, right? And so you kind of feel that hook coming through. As soon as he starts to feed, that's when I start to sit down, right? Or he can start to launch me. So there's two things there. And that's where, oh, he's going to do it, he's going to do it. Oh yeah, look at me. So either from there, from that back take, I sit, or he wants to do the tomoe-nage from here, right? So where he can control me, lift me up and throw me, right? Boom, and he takes me down, and I sit down the same way, right? So he's bringing his legs across. Let's do it this time, Professor.
Grab the far hip, kick.
Oh yeah! Check me out. You still got it. Can I be under this one? I want to be under this one too.
So yeah, get really good at the tomoe-nage sweep. Again, you know, talked about this in our podcast. Coach Rob and I did this last weekend. Is, you know, guys want to go out there and do fancy stuff, but without the fundamentals, you know, as a base, you're not going to get there, right? So really get really good at that back take, get really good at the tomoe-nage, two fundamentals. And then you can start, once you get good at those, they'll give you the reaction for the berimbolo, right? And then it's all about inverting it underneath, crab rides, good times.
Yeah, well, the thing that a lot of people have to realize is when they're looking up these crazy moves, and they're very effective, but all of those guys are the very tip of the Jiu-Jitsu spear. They're all super high level, and their fundamentals are already rock solid. Every single person who berimbolos knows how to take the back without the berimbolo. They know how to do all the basic techniques, and the reason why a lot of these techniques in sport competition evolve so dramatically like this, to these really dramatic positions, is you're facing really, really good people who are just as good as everything as you, so you need to have some kind of slick edge to try and one up the competition, because every little thing counts. It's kind of like the same when I talk about people cutting weight for competition. I'm not a big fan of cutting weight for competition, like at anything except the highest level, because the person who's better at jiu-jitsu is most likely going to win regardless of the weight, right? So just compete at whatever you feel the best at. But when you're going against someone who's just as good as you within like micrometers in every aspect of the game, every little thing counts, like weight and strength. So, you know, then it makes a difference. But, you know, when you're talking about that kind of technique, that wouldn't be the first thing I'm going for. I'd be working on the basic back take, and then work on that. And, you know, one thing I talk about with Coach Max a lot when we're talking in coaches meetings about learning about better ways to teach and things. One of the things I like to do is I may show a technique in the class, especially at the beginner level, and the way I show the technique is how I learned it, but it may or may not necessarily be how I really do it now in my evolution of jiu-jitsu. Like my live version may be a little different. And the reason why that is because I think it's to really own a technique, I think you have to go through some of the evolutionary process yourself. So, and the evolutionary process might be a little different for you. You know, everybody's not going to do the armbar the same way I do. I'm almost 6'3", 225 pounds. You know, Shihan or somebody smaller might not do it that way. You know, so you need to know the fundamentally sound basic version of it, and then go through your own evolution a lot of times. And like, I really love that, because now 12 years later, I have a whole army of people that are doing techniques that I don't even do, man. Like a lot of them, they're doing them different than me, super successful, and or they've evolved into something past what I'm already doing. So yeah, like going through the evolutionary process, not trying to just jump to the final stage is what I'm talking about. And it makes you just know the position better and know the technique better, and you can really own it a lot better, and you'll be more confident with it for sure.
You want to close out and I'll be done?
All right. Yeah. All right, guys. Thanks for watching. It's been another hour already. It's awesome. I'm going to put out another video, so I wanted to mention that we just got word that we're going to be closed for another month until April.
End of April.
End of April,
Yeah,
April
probably
31st.
May 1st, yeah.
May 1st. So, but I'm going to do something else to talk about that. I don't want to sully this great time with that conversation.
You just hit a bambolo.
I know, man. That's awesome.
Yeah.
We should just stop it now.
I'm 1 year old. I'm going to edit all this out. So we can say whatever we want. Yeah.
It's live, bro. It's live. Everyone's seen it.
All right.
17 people.
Sweet. All right. All right. So that being said, awesome, guys. Keep up the motivation. I'm glad everybody's still checking us out. We're going to try and keep putting out stuff. We got ideas for more stuff coming. We're even fabricating the logistics for an online class resource that everybody can log into live with the app, because we have the Zen Planner app for FargoBJJ that most of you guys use anyway for logging into your accounts here. So we're going to be able to get some video streaming on that. That's going to be member only stuff. But when we get that more established, hopefully at the end of the week, I'll put out more on that too. So yeah, guys.
Did you guys decide on a name for the podcast?
Not yet. We're working on it.
I like that. Cops and Roberts.
I can't believe which one.
Cops and Roberts.
Oh, Cops and Roberts. I told Rob, I said, I don't think you should have thrown it out to Charlie Dawson. But it's a good laugh.
All right.
Appreciate the support, guys. Check Facebook. There might be another live Q&A later this week. So we're gonna
Professor Sarah and I are probably going to do one on Wednesday.
Yeah.
6 o'clock.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Husband-wife action.
Oh, boy.